Hello, fellas and fellows. It is Trendy Brendy here, and so this is going to be a bit more of an unscripted video. Basically, I'm just extremely excited for Pokemon Champions, and I haven't seen enough discussion about it, right? Like, I've joined the Pokemon Champions subreddit, and there's like nobody there. Like, it's like puny, and I get that like most fans are more excited for the new game, Pokemon Legends ZA. It's like a full RPG experience. I understand why people are more excited by that. But this is the first time that I'm like really feeling a dissonance between what I'm excited for and what the general Pokemon fandom is excited for. Because Pokemon Champions just looks incredible to me. So basically, Pokemon Champions, I've just been thinking about it like nonstop, you know, like this could be the biggest game ever for Pokemon. I think Wolf Glick, his video on the subject is very informative. I highly recommend you go watch Wolf Glick's Pokemon Champions video. He didn't exactly get to all of the nitty-gritty details that are like most important to me, and so like I've just been thinking about this game, man, and how like, yeah, Legends ZA is another Pokemon game. Right, that's exciting in its own way. You know, new Pokemon game means new Pokemon, new forms, new stories in the same world. It's a new RPG adventure, yada yada yada. But what excites me about Pokemon Champions is that as a game, it seems like it was very deliberately greenlit for the purpose of solving problems. It was like you had like big studio guys were looking at the problems facing the franchise and were like, hey, we can solve some of these with like a game. Like we can greenlight a project with the express goal of solving some of these issues. I just want to talk about some of the problems with Pokemon that the series has been facing that I think a piece of software like Pokemon Champions could aim to solve. And as far as order goes, I'm going to go in ascending order of how big I think it would be if they were solved. So let's get into it. The first problem I'll bring up is graphics. I mean, this is kind of like a dirty word in the Pokemon community, right? Like, gameplay before graphics and all that. I agree. This is not me like trying to start another flame war or dogpiling on Pokemon Sword and Shield or Scarlet and Violet or Legends Arceus or anything. The Switch generation of Pokemon has been very good to me. I've been enjoying the games, but it is an irrefutable fact that they just don't look as good as the other games on the system, at least for games from as big a publisher as the Pokemon Company. This is also an issue that the competitive scene has been facing. We know from the Giga Leak, for the next couple of Worlds, they are planning on pivoting their marketing of the event more towards esports, right? And it's always kind of like frustrating to look at the Pokemon World Championships and seeing the disparity between the level of play and the visuals on screen. Here's a clip of the Pokemon World Championships from the Sword and Shield era.
So that's something to consider, maybe adapt, change a little bit going into this turn.
I was going to say, I'd probably love to see just the rogue Groudon switch in, but not happening here. It's going to be a Dynamax on that Thundurus. Going to be playing out very similarly to the way Game 2 is here. Both of these trainers decided to Dynamax very, very early in Game 2 and apply that offensive pressure straight away. We see the Dynamax for Eduardo, but not for Guillermo in this turn, instead opting to go for a Protect and play a little bit defensively. Coming back onto the battlefield, Grimmsnarl is going to set up the Reflect, and I really like this adjustment. The Scary Face wasn't too beneficial in the end. Being able to get the defensive measures up are going to protect you from both of these physical attackers on Eduardo's side. Behemoth Blade comes out from the opposing Zacian, however, it will connect onto that Grimmsnarl, but with Reflect in play, it's still not going to be able to survive.
No, it goes down, and that I think that the decision here, you know, Guillermo's that if the Zacian stays on the field, which it will this turn, I'm protecting with my Charizard, I have to get some more out of it. I didn't get any value out of it that last game because the Scary Face, it was gone after the Zacian kind of was knocked out. Now you've got the Reflect in play against these big physical attackers. It's way more impactful, especially protecting your Charizard that you saw obviously taking the max airstream there that turn, but not taking as much damage as Guillermo would have been taking that previous game without the Reflect.
I mean, this is where things could change slightly. You've got the sun on the field.
And here's a clip from the Pokemon World Championships from the Scarlet and Violet era.
Overpawn, but also depends on maybe how these are trained, but at the very least you've scared away this Miraidon. It is going to retreat, and instead it is going to be Iron Hands that takes its place. So let's see what happens from here after we see this attack boost for the Iron Hands.
Well, Yuta doesn't necessarily want to see this Iron Hands. We know that it has the potential to be faster in Trick Room against that Calyrex, and with the very low HP remaining, it's got something like a Fake Out, should be able to get the edge on it. The Pelipper joining the field, though, bringing that rain is just going to enable none of these Fire-type attacks to deal as much damage, but Ogerpon playing defensively and going for that Spiky Shield.
Spiky Shield means that you are actually going to have it on the field a little bit longer. It's going to deny a boost, another boost to this Ice Runner Calyrex's attack, but as it's going to be the Iron Hands that has to take its place. It has the Assault Fist. It doesn't necessarily have a way to boost up its defenses, so that's over 50%.
These are supposed to be the games on stream that Pokemon wants non-Pokemon fans to see. This is their big moment, right? They want a clip of this stream to go viral. They want a Pachirisu moment to blow up on Twitter and for people to share the clip around. And honestly, with like the battle camera and the move animations and the resolution, the pop-in, how is there pop-in? This is a battle in one location. It looks bad. It reflects poorly on the game, and it probably leads to some people going, I think if I want to get into competitive Pokemon, I'll play like the card game or Pokemon Go or something. And I think Pokemon sees that as an issue. One of the reasons why they greenlit Pokemon Champions is to solve the graphics problem with Pokemon. And that's not me saying that I think the graphics in Pokemon Champions are going to look fantastic, stellar, unbeatable Pokemon graphics. But I do think it's going to provide a solid foundation for them going forward, and it'll establish a visual identity for the competitive side of Pokemon. Pokemon VGC, since it changes games so frequently, it doesn't have much of a visual identity, and if they can get like a solid platform going with Pokemon Champions, then the Pokemon Company will at that point have a game that they can change to their liking. It's not unheard of for a live service game to get a visual overhaul, and I could see something like that, if they plan on supporting Pokemon Champions for a generation or two, they could come out with like the big 4.0 update. We have changed the shaders and added new battle stadiums and all that. I could see something like that happen. The realisticness of this game solving that problem is honestly 100%. From the camera angles and the moves that they've shown on their website, that Hyper Beam looks really nice. The Wave Crash looks cool. I like the camera shake. I'm really hoping for a return to Sword and Shield's battle camera, but it looks really good. If Pokemon Champions comes out and it is, not the best in almost every category, I will still be satisfied because of my amount of time and Pokemon investment that I've already done in Pokemon Home, and I can just move those over. This will, at the bare minimum, solve that problem for me, and I'm going to be happy with that. Now, the next problem, you could probably group it in with the graphics issue. Visual variety. So this isn't a problem people would normally bring up. You're probably surprised to hear me bring it up. Pokemon kind of has a problem with casual fans not understanding the competitive play party selection aspect. And they just get tired of seeing Incineroar's idle animation for hours. Incineroar is an incredibly strong Pokemon. It's going to be on stream a lot of the time, and its idle animation will be on display for most of that time. And so you might not think this is much of an issue, but especially for legendary Pokemon, the only variance we have for these Pokemon, visually, is shininess, their shiny status. Are they shiny or are they not? And now size. As of Scarlet and Violet, Pokemon display their size differences during gameplay, which is cool, and I love that, but that shouldn't be the only thing we have to look forward to, right? This is also why I'm an advocate for removing shiny locks from legendary Pokemon. Like, if I'm going to be staring at Qian Pao for longer than any casual player ever will, I'd like to see, I'd like to sometimes see the shiny, right? Like, I don't, I mean, it's an odd problem to have, but, when you put in hundreds of hours into each competitive game like I have, that little bit of variance goes a long way. My proposal to solve this problem is basically, it's kind of tied to how they monetize the game. There were rumors that the game would be a paid game, like you would have to buy it, but seeing it on mobile and knowing that like VGC no longer has an off season, I'm really starting to doubt that idea. I think it's going to be a free app. I don't think that they set out with this idea in mind without making it free to play, or at least free to start. And one of the ways I think they could monetize it is with visual cosmetics. And I'm not saying give every Pokemon a hat, or give every, map out on every Pokemon where their bow tie goes and where their hat goes, even though, I mean, I guess they already did that when they put Terra Crowns on Pokemon, but that's beside the point. Don't give every Pokemon hats. But like in Pokemon Go, right? Certain Pokemon have aesthetic variants, right? Like there's Biker Jacket Snorlax, and there's Fashion Week Butterfree, there's like a Wooper and a Quagsire with like a little beanie hat. They're just adorable. And of course all the Pikachu hats. It would be nice if like certain Pokemon, especially those with high usage on stream, hint hint, were able to get cosmetics that we could assign to our Pokemon in our team builder. In the same way that when you're putting trading cards into your deck in Pokemon Trading Card Game Pocket, you can just click on the ones that you have flair for and assign a flair to them. Like, I think you should be able to do the same for like little Pokemon cosmetics. And not every Pokemon needs to have them, but the more popular ones, the cuter ones, the ones that show up on stream most often, I think it would be cool. And that's all without mentioning that, like, I'm excited for the potential of more battle stadiums, more, hopefully trainer customization. But, like, some of this is tied to Battle Pass stuff or microtransactions. Ideally, and this is just me, I would prefer if the game was, like, free to start. You can earn freemium currency by playing ranked battles, and you can use rental teams all you want. But if you wanted to do actual team building, you could invest your little points that you get here and there to like change your rental Pokemon. But if you wanted to get like the big boy team builder, you have to like fork over $10 to $30, right? Just to like unlock free roam mode. So next up is the problem of accessibility. And this is a big one. And I don't mean in terms of like supporting disabled players, which honestly they should be making a bigger effort for. This game being entirely turn-based is helpful in that regard. As far as like accessibility goes, I'm referring to like the competitive scene. People often talk about how competitive Pokemon and the single-player Pokemon experience, they kind of tug and pull on each other. They're kind of the ball and chain attached to each other. So the people who just want to enjoy a nice single-player experience sometimes get presented options and like side quests and NPCs who offer helpful advice that only applies to multiplayer fans. What good is the hyper training guy in Monte Nevera doing for the single player fans? Who does that help? That's just for competitive fans. And they've had to like design their game with competitive fans in mind and single player fans in mind at the same time, so that they like, either don't make the game too much of a cakewalk for new players, while also not like impeding the progress of the fans who just want to get to the game, right? And getting to the game is the problem here. If somebody wants to play competitive Pokemon, this is just before even thinking about what team they want to use, they have to own a Switch, they have to have Nintendo Switch Online, they have to own the game, they have to invest like 10 to 20 hours to beat the game, And then they've got to, like, you know, register online with Play Pokemon and, you know, get ready for events. That is a lot of steps. And yeah, technically you can just advance Scarlet and Violet to the point you get the Terra Orb and then just use rental teams, sure. But that is like requiring a bit more game knowledge than I think the prospective player would bother having, right? I'm saying that like the casual fan who's like, oh yeah, I played Pokemon 2 years ago, I played Sword and Shield, and I haven't bought another Pokemon game on Switch since. I want them to watch a Wolfie Glick video and go, oh, I want to play this. How do I play this? Oh, I have to spend like $100. I don't want that hurdle to be in their way, right? For a personal example, what I want to happen with this game is I'm hanging out with a friend in the city and I'm like, oh, I gotta get going. I'm going to a Pokemon competition at a local card shop. And I want to be able to end that sentence with, do you want to go with me? All you have to do is download an app, set up an account, and I'll give you a rental code and we can just go. Like, and you'll be able to play with all the best of them, you know? Like, that's what I want to happen. If there's like too much friction in the way of this app, like if it's like, oh, well, you have to activate it on both Switch and mobile in order to get access to rental Pokemon, and you only get some rental Pokemon at the start, and you can't use rental codes until you buy the Battle Pass, or if there's too much in the way, then I don't think this solves the accessibility problem. Obviously, they have made strides with accessibility towards competitive play, like, over the many years. But at this point, we're at the point where, like, new players are just at such a disadvantage because, like, there's, like, a whole, like, RPG before they can get to the game. And that sucks. And I don't want that anymore. And if Pokemon Champions can solve this issue, I will be very happy. Lastly, this is the biggest problem that I see with competitive Pokemon that I think this game could solve. Like, if they lock in and they really want to, like, fix Pokemon problems, they'll solve this problem. And that problem is team building. All the time, people are turned away from playing competitive Pokemon because it's such a time sink. They have to, you know, they gotta beat the game, they gotta get the Pokemon, they gotta figure out how best to train the Pokemon. They've gotta, you know, farm the Terra Shards or RNG abuse to get ability patches and, like, all of this junk just to, like, get Pokemon on their team, right? I actually wrote down this example. If a plucky prospective player wants to begin playing at local competitions by building a quarterfinalist team used by Diego Ferreira in last year's 2024 Pokemon World Championships, they need to, first of all, breed a Teddiursa with their desired stats in Scarlet and Violet, evolve it into an Ursaring, and then into an Ursaluna in Pokemon Legends Arceus. Then they need to catch or breed a female Indeedee, a Torkoal, and a Gallade, all with desired stats. They need to catch Ogerpon in Scarlet and Violet, which requires the Scarlet and Violet DLC pass. They need to catch Glastrier in either Scarlet and Violet or Sword and Shield, which either route requires the Scarlet and Violet DLC pass or the Pokemon Sword and Shield DLC pass. And they need to be able to catch Calyrex with the desired stats in Pokemon Sword and Shield, which requires Pokemon Sword and Shield, Sword and Shield's DLC pass, beating the main game because Calyrex won't fight you until you become the champion, and then you gotta, like, do the reset grind to catch Calyrex with the IVs you want. Then they need to obtain the Reigns of Unity key item from Porto Marinada's auction shops, which requires Calyrex to be in the PC box when they go to the market. Then they need to train their Pokemon's EVs with vitamins and feathers or knocking out dozens of Pokemon. Then they need to train their Pokemon's undesired IVs with bottle caps and Monte Nevera. Then they need to change their Pokemon's Terra types with 50 Terra shards per type per change in the restaurant and Medali. So the estimated minimum cost of the products that they need in USD for building the team is like, and this is just the minimum. First, they need a Nintendo Switch Lite because we're trying to get the minimum. That's $199.99. Nintendo Switch Online 1-year membership. That's $19.99. Pokemon Scarlet or Violet, $59.99. Scarlet and Violet's DLC Pass, $34.99. Sword or Shield, $59.99. Sword and Shield's DLC Pass, $29.99. And then Pokemon Legends Arceus, $59.99. But I did note that you could hypothetically cut Legends Arceus out of this because all you need from this game is Ursaluna with desired IV calculations. And you could get an Ursaluna in Pokemon Go and then transfer it from Go to Home and get lucky with your Speed IV roll. But that requires, luck and a lot of time because you can't speed up the real-world process of the moon phases in Pokemon Go. The total cost is $464.93, or $404.94 if your transfer from Go to Home is lucky. I'm just going to go out on a limb here and say that this is too much time and money to not include any competitive practice or resource gathering optimization. Like, this is the, minimumist minimum. Like, you have to. If you wanted to build that team, $404.94 requires a bit of luck, but you could do it, right? And that's just if they want to go to the local with a team they have no practice with. That's so much that you have to invest before you can even play the game. If this game, Pokemon Champions, wants to solve the team building issue, Pokemon is done. That would be so good. Even if they simplified it, that is huge. That means that all somebody needs to start competing in Pokemon is a free app. All you need is a free app and you can start playing. That's what I want. But yeah, so if they can just again, this comes down to monetization, right? I think the game is going to be free because otherwise, with VGC not having an off season, they're going to require people in the middle of next year's season to switch over to a new game in the middle of the season. And that's going to be rough, especially if somebody's already earned their Worlds invite, being told, buy a new game, and then you can play. That's going to be ridiculous. So I really hope it is just a free app, and you just log in, and all of your rental Pokemon, you just mess with sliders. You just mess with sliders, and then you have the Pokemon you want, and then you compete with them. This also solves the hacking, cheating, genning debate, right? Because what is the most annoying thing about competitive Pokemon? And aside from the team building phase, it's people complaining about other people skipping the team building phase. You get all of these people who are like, I can't believe that they used cheats to get their Pokemon. It's so easy in the game. All you have to do is all of this technical stuff. And it's like, calm down, all right? Did the cheating change what buttons they pressed in the game? And the answer is no. It got them more practice time. And even then, that's a debatable advantage because they could just use Pokemon Showdown, right? There's no advantage there. And if there is an advantage, it's way too slight to even matter. And it's also not even that big of an advantage because, you have players like me, right? I don't gen my Pokemon. I've gotten all of my Pokemon myself, basically, most of them. And, I have a competitive living dex. I've, raised them all. I started this in high school, so that was when I got the bulk of the work done. And, I've got an inherent competitive advantage at the team building level because I don't have to worry about some of this stuff. And I think that sucks. I wish I didn't have an inherent competitive advantage over somebody else because I've given Pikachu more money, more time. Like, that sucks. That feels bad. And if you're a competitive player, you enjoy playing the game, you obviously want more people to play the game with, right? Like, that's the point. If this game, Pokemon Champions, can solve the 4 problems that I've outlined here, I am happy as a clam pearl. You know, like graphics, visual variety, accessibility, team building. If they solve those problems, I'm good forever, right? As long as they support this game or create a sequels to it whenever they're done, you know, supporting like really old Android platforms or whatever, like whatever they gotta do. If they solve Pokemon team building and accessibility forever, I'll be so happy. Like, it'll actually get to the point where somebody can start competing in competitive Pokemon by just downloading an app and making an account. And that would be magical. I hope you all have a wonderful day. I know this is kind of outside the regular content that I've been making recently with all the Pokemon Mystery Dungeon shorts. Thanks for the support on those, by the way. I'm really, I'm thankful and happy to be creating stuff. With all of that out of the way, I've been Trendy Brendy, and I hope you all stick around, subscribe for free Robux, and leave a comment. Talk about what you want to see in Pokemon Champions, or Legends ZA, if that's what you're more excited for. I'll see you all later. Bye.